Hey everyone, welcome to Club and Country Today, our first official show of the 2022 World Cup, taking place, of course, in Qatar. I am David Goss. Alongside me, the man, the myth, the legend, Bobby Warshaw himself. We've been previewing the World Cup for you all week, digging into every single group, what could happen, what might happen, what we expect. And now we actually saw it out on the field for the first time. Just one game today. So we'll talk about that, and then we will start to preview things for you coming up tomorrow. The other half of Group A, Senegal versus Netherlands. What will happen without Sadio Mane? What should we expect from the Netherlands? And then we're going to dig in on Group B to close things out here. And of course, that means England, Iran, Wales, and most importantly for many of us, the United States back in the World Cup on the men's side for the first time in 8 years. Bobby, was a team that was back for the first time in 8 years in Ecuador. They got their first win since 2014. And we talked about both these teams a fair amount because these were two of the teams that I think we did a lot of research on. We were very intrigued for different reasons. What was your experience? Did it feel like a glove, like you were back in the zone getting a World Cup?
It just felt so good to have it back, to have the World Cup back after 4 years. It was just fun to watch. Wake up early in the morning, make the coffee, put on the game. And David, we had talked on the show about who we really thought would make the world fall in love. That we look back on our tournaments and we remember a moment or a team or a person that just brought us joy, independent of how they did. But it was just this thing we look back on and remember fondly. And I had pointed out that I thought that Ecuador might be that team because they play with an exuberance. Remember, they are one of the 3 youngest teams in this tournament, and they play with an exuberance that shows it. There's energy. There's a sense that they have nothing to lose out there. And I thought that that's what we saw in this first game. So much pressure, the world watching, and they went out like it was just another Saturday with their friends.
And the other side of this thing was Qatar was a complete unknown, almost unprecedented at a World Cup level. And World Cups are every 4 years, right? So there's a lot of unknowns.
That out. Thanks.
Thank
you. Good start today.
There are a lot of unknowns because it's rare to play in more than one for any person, let alone a country, let alone a solid team. So there's going to be a bunch of unknown through everything we see, but Qatar was on a whole different level. And we weren't sure what we'd see. And I think a lot of people around the world thought they were going to get what they got in the first half. And then it shifted a little bit more in the second half. And I still think for Senegal and Netherlands, you want to be a little wary about what you're going to get going forward, which we'll talk about a little bit more coming up.
It was sad. I mean, let's just say what it was. It was sad. It was hard to watch, especially in the first half, for a country that's hosting this event. And there's so many things happening, right? And I think that there's been a lot of great coverage in important places for that. But for the human beings on the team, on the field, with so much excitement around them, they spent their whole lives working to this moment. And then those first 45 minutes, David, were just hard to watch. And we have talked multiple times about how prepared this team is. They have played together for years. They all play in the Qatari League. They had taken 6 months off from their club teams to train. And the main takeaway from those first 45 minutes especially was that emotions trump tactics. Emotions and excitement and energy trump preparation. And it looked like the Ecuadorian players are more prepared for the emotions of the moment, more prepared to execute their ideas in that first half.
And one of the question marks around Ecuador was how young they are. And this, I think, brings us to our first topic of the day, first category, which we are going to do every single day. We've got a couple of awards we put together. We're going to keep adding people to the list to get the ultimate winner at the end. And our first one is Free for Life, whether it's food, drinks, tea, coffee, whatever it is in whatever country they live in, you know that there are legends that are made out of the World Cup. And there are players who are stars that have big World Cup moments, but there are also other players who maybe have one big moment in their career, but if it happens in a World Cup, they are a national legend for the rest of their lives. Enner Valencia is probably a little bit of both of that, Bobby, and he is the clear winner coming out of today, I think, for the Free for Life category.
And especially the header. That the second goal, the header from 16 yards was just outrageous. You know, we look back on previous tournaments, and the one from 2018 that comes to mind was Benjamin Pavard right back for France with the outside of the foot half volley curler just inside the far post. It's a goal that sticks in our minds. And I think that's what Enner Valencia did in this opener, right? He was good in so many ways in this game, of course, finishing the penalty, having the first goal called back. But that header fading away over his left shoulder, just inside the post, was just so special. And I think it's a worthy nominee, especially for our first one for Free for Life.
We're going to see a lot of deep crosses, I think, in this World Cup. We talked about it a bit in the preview of the way some of these teams play. There are a lot of good box options at center forward, especially for a team like a Poland. And I think you're going to see early crosses just to try and get service in there. And what I love about that play is he knows he doesn't need to add any power. It all needs to be direction. And so he doesn't have to pull his head back and generate. It's about just flicking it off in the direction.
But needless to say, when we talked about crosses coming in, we did not think that Enner Valencia was going to be the main target on the end of them or the one to score the goal that made our jaw drops on those deep crosses.
What's cool about this story, and I think we're going to talk about it with a few other countries coming up, is for Enner Valencia, he is alone sort of in his generation. And so he played up with a star generation from 02 to 06 through to 10 for Ecuador. That was legends, right? And obviously there's another Valencia that was a part of that, but some great players that played in the Netherlands and England and Germany and all that. And then on his own, he kind of was stuck, and they've been struggling for 8 years. And now this new generation comes through, but he's still good enough to affect them. And we're going to talk about it. I think Atiba Hutchinson's a similar player like that for Canada. Obviously, DeAndre Yedlin's going to be a similar character, although not at the same level for the U.S., where it's like, you maybe didn't know you'd be here again. And then as a young generation comes through, you don't know who's going to triculate down and also be a part of that group. And Enner Valencia has hung on, and he's the leading scorer in Turkey, and now he's the leading scorer, at least for the day, at the World Cup.
When Enner Valencia was at Tigres, just torching everyone in CCL, he was one of the players that you hated when he was on the other team, but I actually always enjoyed watching him. He always played with such a confidence and a cool that even though he was better than everyone else, he brought it, and it just looked like it was fun and easy to him. And I just want to point out, David, that today was a big win for the crowd that supports set pieces and Enner Valencia.
Yeah.
So I just want to make sure we get that in the show at some point.
Bobby had a good day. I also saw a very specific kickoff play, I think, for Qatar to open the entire World Cup. And I know you love a good kickoff play. We have a couple other categories we're going to go through throughout the tournament. We're not going to update them every single day, probably as rounds finish, but we need you guys to send us your entries on them. So you can tweet at either of us. We'll put out sort of a landing page, I think, every single day for you to get in. I already heard some feedback on Sebas Mendez's through ball early in the second half off a turnover from Qatar that should have led to a goal. I'm already getting a lot of feedback that was the through ball of the tournament. So we've already got a leader, at least in one category, coming in. I'm also being told by my wife that she will assist in the heartthrob of the tournament. Felix Sanchez, head coach for Qatar, is an early leader as well. Just one day in, though. We've still got 63 more games, and we still got to see 30 other teams and a lot more to talk about, which takes us in to this match specifically, Bobby. We talked to Enner Valencia. Outside of that, though, let's talk about what we saw. And I want to lean on Qatar a little bit here. They were that unknown. We knew the style. We'd seen them play well at Gold Cup. They had competed at Copa America, and they had won the 2019 Asian Cup. So this was not, yes, they are hosts. They did not qualify. They'd never been in a World Cup. But this was not a team that hadn't succeeded or played at an international level. What I saw in the first half did feel like a team that was unsure of the speed and strength of the game that they were playing in. And I saw that especially with everyone on Qatar worried to turn up field, to take space. They didn't know what was going on around them. They tried to play simple passes and then a few mistakes at the back, and Ecuador took advantage. What did you feel like you got from this Qatar team?
Yeah, I just want to actually hone into what you said, because I didn't feel like they were overwhelmed by the pace or the quality of the game. I thought they were overwhelmed by the spectacle of the moment. I think if you were to play this game 10 more times, this is by far the worst they do against Ecuador. And all 9 times, it's closer to a draw or a Qatar win than it is in this one. This one was about a group of people who just had an incredible occasion on their shoulders, a nation's occasion on their shoulders, and they didn't step up to that. And I think you could just see it by the fluidity of the moment, right? Afif, Ali, Hados are all smooth players who just did not show it. You could see it in their movements. That there is
couldn't trap a ball for the first
yeah, that was it was just like it was so far beyond anything football or sport related. And I would expect that the next two games they are much better and they are a better representation of what they can bring. Because anybody who had seen them prior to this tournament knows that they are better than this team that we saw.
And I think Felix Sanchez has his talking points, which is look, second half 0-0, right? We had more of the ball. We played like. But to me, Bobby, I agree with you in the first half. In the second half, when it got better, I still saw players unwilling to turn up field and unwilling to take space. And to me, that says I don't understand where guys are going to be because I don't feel comfortable with the speed or the positioning or the soccer IQ of the opponents. And so I kept seeing players turn out of upfield situations and play back and then try and play back across the back line because they were scared to enter into Ecuador's shape.
But we already talked about they've done a world tour. They've played all these types of opponents, right? It's not like this is their first time. America. Yeah, it's not like this is their first time. So I hear what you're saying. I think it's a valid point. But for me, this is more about the human nature and the human condition than anything having to do with the sport or the opponent or the level that they were at.
They obviously got off a little easy early. Early goal for Ecuador called back because of VAR. A very tight call. The collision and then the player, I don't remember exactly who it was, who's sitting right next to the collision is the one who was technically offside because the goalkeeper has passed at that point, takes one touch, then a second pass, and then the goal for Valencia. And listen, I'll tell you, in the place I was sitting in, everyone was making the same joke about what they thought was going on and how that call got made. And I know you love VAR, Bobby, so you were a big fan of that call.
Oh, you're going to put me on the spot? The first show of the tournament, you're going to make me talk VAR? Listen, I think it's great. I think it's great that they got it right. I mean, it's certainly cool technology to be able to identify that 4 inches that nobody else in the world would have seen. I just think it kills the point of what we're trying to do in sport and entertainment, right? We don't watch sport for exactitude, right? We're not building a Medicaid plan. We're not building something to make sure people get healthcare. We're watching sport because it's fun and crazy. And the fact that we have an insane opener to a World Cup, everyone celebrates, everyone thinks it's a special moment. And then all of a sudden we have a computer tell us to stop and turn around and start over. For me, just kills the point and the existence of why we do this. So I think it's cool. I think it's impressive. And video review is not for me. And I'm not going to bring it up the rest of the tournament because it's a lost battle.
I agree on some points with you. I think tie goes for the runner, allow offense, like tight calls, stuff like that. You're unsure. Those are all goals. Let's create attacking. If it's an obvious thing that's missed and you can see it on video, then it's something that should be affected. I think the technology, the use of it should exist. It didn't matter, right? Ecuador didn't lose any part of their stride at that moment. They continued to knock it around. They had chances in a few different ways. Some was direct. Some was a little bit more intricate. I thought they were dangerous down the left-hand side, which, Bobby, you had talked about in your preview. Purvis Estupiñán was going to be a big part of this. Ibarra was a bit of a surprise to me in the starting lineup in Romario Ibarra out on the left-hand wing, but I thought he had good moments where he came in field and gave space for Estupiñán and Enner Valencia to pick up spots on that left-hand side.
So big picture, what did we learn about Ecuador and how does this change your projection of them through the rest of the tournament?
Nothing. Not in a bad way. 3 points is a chance for them to get out of the group. You need 3 points. For the talent that I thought that was on this team, I think a lot of it was out there. The one thing that maybe changed, I think Gustavo Alfaro showed that he's going to trust the depth of the roster at the World Cup the same way he trusted it in qualifying. I did not think Seba Mendes was going to start a game. I didn't know that Michael Estrada, with the year he's had, was going to start a game. And I wasn't sure about Romario Ibarra as well. But even more than that, I talked on Friday about maybe they'll go back 5 to cover for Byron Castillo. He just went to the next guy up, as well as shifting things a little bit. And I think that's promising because with every game in 4 days, you're going to need to use pieces.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, this is effectively what we knew they were capable of doing. This is undoubtedly a team that can make it out of the group, perhaps is a favorite to make it out of the group ahead of Senegal along with Netherlands, and then can absolutely beat one of the powerhouses in the round of 16. Did they show that they have the fluidity or the ability on the ball to make a deeper run than that? I don't know that we saw that today, but I mean, as the saying goes, they are who we thought they are, which is capable of making it to the knockout rounds.
We will find out how well they can defend against the Netherlands, who will have more of the ball. The Senegal game will play out similar to this. is what I'd expect, because Senegal, again, is a team that sort of dominates or defensively and sits a little deeper. That's a question mark, I think, for Ecuador, because I don't know that they showed a ton of attacking fluidity, because I lean a lot on Qatar's performance in this one. So that still, I think, is the biggest game for them in this group stage, and that's still an unknown coming out of this one. But first win in 8 years at a World Cup level for Ecuador, and it's a special moment. I think you're the lone people on stage right now, and they were able to show the world what they're capable of. They've got a bad crest, bad as in bad ASS. They've got a dope jersey. I don't know why I did it that way. And I think they showed a lot of also their future. We talked about Independiente del Valle. I saw a nice joke going around that Independiente del Valle beats Aspire Academy 2-0 in this one, because both of these countries are fairly built through one specific team. Aspire, we all know, and del Valle has been sort of this youth movement that all these players, a lot of them, Moises Caicedo, a big part of that one, have come out of for Ecuador. So Ecuador gets the win. They move to first place, obviously, in Group A, as the lone game tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern time. Senegal plays against the Netherlands. So that is that last game in Group A. That one's on Fox and Telemundo. Bobby, does this result or game in any way affect the way Senegal and Netherlands go into their first game?
No. I mean, if you're Senegal, you have to expect that you're fighting for the second spot coming out of this group. You have to expect that Ecuador is going to win this game. And it doesn't change much of what you're doing. I mean, maybe it puts them on edge because Ecuador made a slight statement about what they're capable of. Mm-hmm. But in terms of tactically, in terms of the mentality, no, they're still going to go into tomorrow's game with the same thoughts.
Let's go. The big stories. Let's start with Senegal. Sadio Mane's out of this World Cup. We touched on it a little bit when the news came out last week. Now a chance to look at Senegal more. What does this mean for them besides he's the big name? How does this affect this team?
For how they're going to play and how they're going to approach the games, not much again, right? They're still going to be the same type of team. They're still going to look the same. They're still going to try the same ideas to win. It just means they lost talent. It means they lost their main person to look to build and finish off the attacks. But I mean, Sadio Mane is amazing. In his place, they do have a regular for Monaco stepping in Krépin Diatta, who we expect to start. So can you ever replace Sadio Mane? No, but it's also nice when you can bring a regular in Krépin Diatta for Monaco into that starting 11.
And so Ismail Sarr, we already thought would start, the Watford winger. A lot of the creativity comes from him. That's with and without Mane, because as you said, Sadio Mane, he's really the finisher on this team. He's not a creator out of that wing spot. He's the one who scores the bulk of their goals. That's going to be the big question mark now, is can any of the center forwards can anyone on this team step up and score goals in big moments? Because this is one of the best defensive teams in the world. They are the best defensive team in Africa. That's why they won AFCON. And that still will exist with Koulibaly and Mendy, both Edouard Mendy and Nampalys Mendy at D-mid and in goal.
Yeah, and it's a team that's predicated on their organization, on their intelligence, on their tactical discipline, sitting in compact lines, sitting in tight block, and being good on the break. And David, I think the key point to take away here is perhaps this means Senegal is no longer has the capability to make a run to the final, the semifinal, as you had them last week, yes. But they still have the ability to make it out of the group. They are still on roughly that 50% projection threshold to get one of the top two spots. And this doesn't take them out of that conversation and maybe even to win that first knockout round.
And we've asked the question a few times, right? Who's going to be the name that pops up, or the person that pops up a little unexpectedly that has a big tournament? If anyone can score 2 or 3 goals for this Senegal team, that's probably someone you're talking about, because they're going to hold zeros or give up 1 at the most defensively. And so whoever's popping up with goals, they're going to be big goals. They're going to be meaningful goals. And that's something that can take them on to the next stage. Let's talk about goals on the Netherlands. Memphis Depay is out. We expect the entire group stage, but we know at least for tomorrow, Bobby, that's as big a miss probably as there could be on the Netherlands, maybe even bigger than Van Dijk. He was tied for Golden Boot leader in UEFA World Cup qualifying. He is their talisman for this national team.
Yeah, if you follow international club football, then perhaps you think of Memphis Depay as a marginal player, a player that isn't necessarily a mainstay for the top clubs in the world. He struggled at Man United. He hasn't really made his mark since he went to Barcelona. But for this Dutch national team, he is the main attacker. He was tied for the lead in UEFA qualifying for goals scored along with England's Harry Kane. And he is the person that both helps in the build-up, because it's a Louis van Gaal team that depends on intricate team build-ups, but he is also the person who gets on the end of them. So whatever you might have thought about Memphis Depay at the club stage, he is much, much more important to this Dutch team.
The rumors are we might see Vincent Janssen get the start in this one. Janssen, probably much forgotten by some people, was at Tottenham, didn't work out, ended up going to Mexico as Monterrey tried to pull their own Gignac and say, oh, we'll bring in a European center forward who's, you know, probably going to be better here than he is over there. And it did not work out at all. And now he's back in Belgium and he's gotten himself back into the national team. And
the tone of your voice there did not accurately reflect the words that you put into the group chat about this.
How shocked I am that Vincent Janssen could be any part of the conversation around a World Cup right now.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm pretty shocked about it. Let me ask you one quick one before we go. Mm-hmm. What's your Frankie de Jong feelings?
Big Frankie de Jong guy.
He is.
Do you need me to expand beyond that? I mean, do I need to expand about why Frankie de Jong is a wonderful player?
You can if you want to.
I didn't know that's a thing the world needed more of. I feel like that's already out there.
I just think in a game where we're talking about Senegal being defensive or trying to sit in, it takes away some of what de Jong's great at, right? Which is beating people when they press you and covering space. But with Depay out, he is the guy. Like, this team will lean on him tomorrow.
Well, on a macro level, I do want to mention, because I don't think we talk about this often enough, when a player is just graceful and fun to watch. I mean, so much about world football now is about pressing, it's about mobility. Mm-hmm. But Frankie de Jong has a grace that really, it feels special to watch. But the second part is that one of his best traits is his ability to break lines on the dribble. And when you can do that, when you yourself can take multiple players out of a play. So David, to your point about whether the fact that he is press resistant and can help break a press. Well, I'd actually think that same skill set is almost equally as effective when you're playing against a mid block, because he can take the ball on his own foot, drive forward 15 yards, break a line. So what he does in his own third can be replicated into the final third. And I think that's going to be just as important against the Senegalese team.
Another name to watch out for, Cody Gakpo. Up-and-coming star at PSV. We had him shortlisted as one of the young breakout stars. The expectation is he will get a start tomorrow with Memphis Depay's injury. It could move some pieces around, or it could just be right now because Louis van Gaal believes Cody Gakpo is one of the best 11 players.
Cody Gakpo leads the line for the list of players that you say if you want to sound like you've done your research and know what you're talking about to be the breakout star.
Yeah, let's get in now to Group B. We've got England, Iran at 8 a.m. on FS1 and Telemundo. And then, of course, the U.S., the final game of the day against Wales. That one, 2 p.m. on Fox and on Telemundo. I want to start big picture on the group, Bobby, and ask, I think, a dumb question. I'm going to ask it anyway.
Love these. Love them.
And you got to love me prefacing it that way. And I'm going to go a little U.S. bias here. If I'm a U.S. fan, my inclination, if I'm watching England, Iran at 8 a.m. is to cheer for Iran, because I'm just going to cheer against England. That's kind of an easy one to go with. But the way you want a group dynamic to work, is that correct? Or do we want to see England roll through every other team?
Yeah, I do think that instinct is correct, David. And I was thinking the same thing. So I looked back at World Cups going back to 2006. And the general principle here is that if there is a distinct top team in the group, which most people would agree, maybe not U.S. men's national team fans, but most neutral arbiters would agree that England is the top team in this group, you want them to take all the points.
Right?
Yes, that's what the odds told us, that they were about 90% to make it out. You want them to take all of the points. And if you look back to the World Cup since 2006, when a single team has won 9 points, 4 points for the second place team has been enough to get out. 4 points isn't always enough, right? If there's a 6, then a 4, then a 4, that doesn't often get it done. But if a single team does win all 3 games and take 9 points, 4 points since 2006 has gotten you through the group, which means that the U.S. can lose to England or lose a game and then get a draw as long as they win the other. So your instinct is right, David. You do want England to win this one.
Well, my instincts are wrong because I'm going to root for Iran probably to beat England in the end in this one because I like upsets and underdogs and stuff like that. And I'm just going to assume that U.S. is going to take 9 points. We're curious what you guys all out there think about this U.S. Wales game, the England group as well. So we're going to have everyone requests to speak, and we're going to pull you in as we get through these previews into the USA game. But let's start with England-Iran. That first game, we know James Maddison will not play in this one. He was one of the big surprises on the roster, let alone just making it here. For England, Kyle Walker, as we've talked about, hasn't played since the beginning of October. It was pretty acknowledged that he was brought to play potentially at the end of the group stage, but probably after that. So that changes things a little bit for this England team, Bobby. But what is this game for the England national team? What do you go in? How do they have to set up? What do they have to prove or do against Iran?
Well, we should acknowledge first that regardless of what you think of England as a footballing team, how you think they should set up their shape, who you think they should start, their main competitive advantage is set pieces. They were dominant in 2018 in set pieces. They still have a Kieran Trippier to deliver those passes. They still have the same players that get on the end of it. So that is still the single thing you need to know, regardless of what you think about the other questions around them. But I do think that there is a fair amount of pressure on this team, more than we might even often see from English national teams, which is a lot, because there is scrutiny of Gareth Southgate. And the fact that he keeps changing formations, the fact that he keeps changing starting lineups, the fact that he can't really seem to settle on who this team is. So if they do not get a result, or even if they do not get a resounding result and play beautiful flowing football and stamp that they are one of the best teams in this tournament, then I do think we will see increased pressure. And I'm not sure if this is a group of players for England that will necessarily thrive under that pressure.
I will say and this is me looking from the outside, I think a lot of this conversation is external. I think the support and relationship inside the group is pretty strong, right? I think Southgate has proven time and time again in the way he's backed up his players, the way he's pushed young players and sort of protected them, that whatever we feel, I think will be from the outside and will be around the FA and stuff like that. But I don't think it'll be happening inside the group unless, and this is something we see, especially with international soccer, unless it's gotten tired, right? Unless 4 years is too much. And will be the third tournament under Southgate, and some of the things that has worked for him maybe stop working and people stop responding. But it feels like this group will play for him. Your son, Mason Mount, will be on the field. That should be a pretty big moment for you as well.
Who is, if you look at this team, David, and there are so many names that people know from watching the English Premier League, who would you say is the single most important piece to this England team living up to their potential?
I think Harry Kane's an obvious answer, but he's an easy one, not because of his goal scoring, but because he is a creator. And he's creator. Yeah.
My counter to that, I think you're right. Of course, Harry Kane is incredibly important. I think that he is on the verge of running into the Wayne Rooney conundrum that Rooney had at the end of his career, which is, I am obviously the best player. I am obviously the most important guy on this team. And he started to do too much. He wasn't just the number 9 who would finish off attacks. He wasn't even just the number 10 who would try and create chances. He was dropping deep. He was picking up in midfield. He was launching 60-yard crossfield passes. He was playing through balls. He was trying to break lines on the dribble. And there are times when I watch Harry Kane with this English team that I feel like it's the same problem. And he does not need, the team is good. I didn't even think the team tactically is pretty smooth and solid. And their big risk for me is if Harry Kane feels too much pressure to do too much and take too much on his shoulders.
Interesting. I just think a part of, this isn't why Son has elevated his game, but I think part of Son being great was Kane showed that he could be a creator to goal scoring wingers or goal scoring wide players, whatever you want to call them. And that's Raheem Sterling, right? And so I think there are parts of his game there where he's not good, he's elite at, that he should bring into this team. And as you've talked about for the last week, teams that win World Cups don't have number 9s that score goals for them. That's not really an actual formula at the international level. And so him getting more people involved in changing the game is big. The player I like watching the most is Jude Bellingham. And I think that's one of those players where he exploded for Dortmund. He played well at Euros. And there is that space that we see a lot of players in, which is it a lot of talk or is it real? And I think he's going to be one of those guys this tournament, like Mbappe was at the last tournament, where it's like, nope, it's real. This guy is a world-class center mid already. He can create. He can take the ball under pressure. He can cover ground as well. He's everything you want from a player like that. And I think he's going to be set up pretty well to be successful in this tournament. So that's the guy I tune in for when I'm watching England. On the flip side for Iran, By the way, we haven't gotten a ton of news out of their camp, so we can't speak a lot. It feels safe to say Sardar Azmoun, one of their big-time strikers, will not start. One, because him and Taremi play the same role, and they don't start both of them. And Taremi right now in great form at Porto, so he probably is a starter anyway. And two, Azmoun is coming in with an injury, so it feels like that'll be Taremi's spot. Otherwise, you can go back and listen to our preview and breakdown of them from Tuesday. Just search MLS Today in any of your podcast feeds and go listen to Club and Country Today. This is an Iran team at their best that can be really dangerous in this group. But what we talked about there, and I think what everyone's seeing is with so much going on outside of soccer for Iran, they may not even mentally be able to be at their best. Carlos Queiroz, this will be his third game as coach, fourth game maybe, as coach of this team. Of course, he has history, but he hasn't been there with this group. So it feels like Iran's coming in behind the eight ball, and England is not the right opponent for them to start with, to be like, halftime, we're pleasantly in this game. It feels like this is probably the worst matchup they could have gotten to open things up. But we will see what happens. Iran won their first game at the last World Cup against Morocco, challenged Portugal, challenged Spain. So they've shown they can do it. Let's move on to the U.S. We've got the U.S. and Wales. Tweet at us anything you want us to talk about or request to speak. And we'd love to have you come in and tell us a little about what you're thinking. This one, 2 p.m. on Fox and Telemundo tomorrow.
Starting at the highest level. And I got a question here on Twitter from Ricky V, which I think is a really good question, David. And I think it really does summarize the conversation. Is the World Cup effectively does it come down to tomorrow's game for the U.S. men's national team? Is it the colloquial do or die? Because at this point, if you're on Twitter, you've seen the data on what happens if you win or lose that first game. If you win that first game of the World Cup, you have an over 80% chance of making it to the knockout round. If you lose that first game, you only have an 11% chance, or only 11% of the time has the team made it out of the first round. So I love this question. So could we basically break down these 4 years, these 3 games, this month-long tournament into a single day event for the U.S. men's national team?
I'm going to say no. I know that this has been the conversation. I know there's been a lot of people who know way more about soccer than I do that have said yes. One, I think if you draw, you're okay, because now you're in a situation where who can take more off of Iran and England? And I don't hate the U.S.'s chances in a spot like that. I actually think the U.S. will play better against England than they will against Wales. I've said this a few times. This is a young team. I think young teams struggle to carry games. There's large chance that tomorrow Wales sits in and the U.S. has to decide on the fly, not on the fly because there'll be game plan, but while they're playing, when they want to push, how they want to push. And I think the U.S. will struggle with that more so than reacting to England's pressure in the next game. And so I do think a tie is fine for the U.S. as long as you see something not like Qatar today, where the players have shown they can handle themselves on this stage. If they come out and play scared and luck into a tie, I don't think I'll feel the same.
I would just think that was a middle ground answer. It's like, oh, tie is okay, which I think is reasonable. It's a soft take, but I think overall logically reasonable.
Yeah, I mean, there are other groups, though, where it wouldn't be the case, right? If the U.S. was playing Qatar tomorrow, then it wouldn't be acceptable to get a tie. You need those points to go on. They will be let out there by Tyler Adams, officially named captain. That's one of the big stories from this week. I broadcast Tyler's first ever professional soccer game. I've covered him now for 7 years, which is wild because he was 15 when that happened. It's not like he's old now. I'm old. He's still fine, but he's always been a captain. I think this is something that anyone who's ever been around him can tell you that they expected coming. Whether he's named it or not, it wouldn't have mattered. Like, he is that personality. That's the way he acts. That's also the way he sees the game. He's constantly talking to other people about what they need to do and understands the game plan and the game model and what the coaches expect. But I think it's cool for someone like that to be rewarded for everything they've brought. And he has struggled with injuries throughout his career at a really high level. He has been very consistent for the U.S., though. And through qualifying, when McKennie was out for reasons physical and as well as being out of the team, Christian Pulisic had injuries. Moose has been out for reasons. Tim Weah has been injured. All these pieces, Adams was the consistent one. And so I think, Bobby, it's pretty well deserved for him to be given that role.
I agree. And I also like the fact that Coach Greg Berhalter has set a singular captain. I talked with him a few months ago on the U.S. Soccer podcast about the role of the captain and the fact that he had a committee, and he was very confident in it. He felt very good, the fact that he had 5 clear leaders on the team and he could rely on all of them. having been in locker rooms and been at tournaments, I do think it helps to have a single person to look to say, what is the direction we're going? What is the tone of the team right now? What happens if I'm just struggling with something? Who is my touch point to then go to the staff or go to the administrator? So I like that they named the person, and I'm with you. For me, Tyler Adams is a great choice.
And I think when you talk about tone, that's where it fits. Like his tone, the way he talks, the way he acts, the way he's going to play is like everyone questions me and I'm just going to attack and figure it out later. And I think that's exactly how the U.S. needs to play tomorrow. On the flip side for Wales, we know the question marks. Joe Allen, Aaron Ramsey have not played recently. Gareth Bale, 2 starts for LAFC. That's a big question mark. Kiefer Moore has been in and out as well more recently. I think most people, what we're getting from Rob Page is he's speaking confidently about everyone. So it's his quote unquote best 11. And that seems pretty straightforward, I think, Bobby, of what we would see if that's what he has available to him.
I just want to say, what a bummer about Joe Allen. You know, that's really the bad news of this tournament. You opened up with Sadio Mane and Memphis Depay. You did not include Joe Allen in that. And he's one of the players I just enjoy watching most in world football. But David, I want to ask you a question about the U.S. team. But I first want to set the stage by saying we generally know that this Welsh team will want to sit a little deeper. They will play with 3 center backs and probably have a mid block of 5 defenders, 4 midfielders, and a single attacker. The 3 center backs are aggressive. They will follow whoever's at the top of the line for the U.S., and they will look to find Aaron Ramsey and Gareth Bale on the break before whatever else happens on set pieces. Knowing those, agreeing on those premises, who are you starting at center forward for the U.S.?
I think I'm starting Jesus Ferreira. You can't give everything up when you get to the tournament, right? You can't have worked on this stuff for years and then give it up, not just because of Jesus Ferreira, but then everyone else looks at it and says, well, what have we been doing? Right. And so I think you have to come in with belief and say, we know what we do will work at this level. Let's stick to our game plan. And if you show panic from the coach, I think it'll ripple down to the players.
I agree with that. It's almost like you're subtweeting at Pep there for his Champions League final decisions. But I do like this question from Sean Hardgrove in the comments, and I want to add to it. His question was, you have to pick 2 of Reyna, Aronson, and Weah to start tomorrow. I'm going to add a component, and I'm going to say that you get to pick 3 of Reyna, Aronson, Weah, and Pulisic, because I don't think the odds on Pulisic starting tomorrow are as close to 100% as people would expect. So you get 3 of those 4.
I completely disagree. My question would be 3 of 4 of Reyna, Aronson, Weah, and Weston McKennie. That would be my question over the Pulisic one.
It's hard to have the McKennie question because we don't know about his health right now.
For sure.
So I also don't think that Weston is the right player for this type of game. So I'm going to leave him out. That's the easiest of these to me. But if we acknowledge that, if we assume that there's not going to be a positional shift where Timothy Weah either plays center forward or right back, now all of a sudden you have 3 spots that are open. And we accept that Tyler Adams is going to start at the base of the pivot. Yunus Musa is going to start at one of the other center midfielders. You now have 1 center midfield spot open and two wide attacker spots open. And again, you have those 3 spots, and you have Brendan Aronson, Timothy Weah, Gio Reyna, and Christian Pulisic. And you get to pick 3 of those players. Who is the one that is not starting for you?
Gio Reyna, probably right now. To me, Timothy Weah, if he's healthy, he's starting. I find it interesting that there's become sort of people forgetting what he can be in this team and how special he was, and not just I think he came into the team over the last 3 years as reliable because of the way he played at Lille, right? He presses, he defends well. His floor is very high. Like, I think he came in as that. And then you saw in the Costa Rica game, the Jamaica game, a few of those other games, especially home games where the U.S. had more of the ball, that he is one of the best chance creators on this team. And so to me, Weah is locked in.
Weah, I agree. He is the highest percentage chance of starting of all of these 4 players. And we'll say that he's going to start on the right attacking spot, right wing. Okay. And then, so now you've got 2 spots for 3 players.
And then Pulisic starting. No question about it. I don't know where you're getting that there's any.
Why are you so sure? Okay. So that means that we're going to put either Gio Reyna or Brendan Aronson at the other central midfield position, assuming Weston McKennie is not healthy.
Yes.
Tell me why you're so confident that Pulisic should start instead of the player who gets more minutes at Borussia Dortmund right now, or the player who is a lockdown starter at Leeds United and has been excellent in the English Premier League. Why is Pulisic so certain to play over them in the starting lineup?
Because he's the US's Enner Valencia. He's the US's guy. He's the only one who's in any way been there. And he is the one that's been a leader to every player who's come into the team since they've come into the team. This is the biggest game the US has played in 4 to 8 years. And if he's healthy, I don't believe that Greg Berhalter won't start Christian Pulisic in this game, as well as his best chance of having a good tournament is having Christian Pulisic play well. And if he can get that going because of confidence, whatever you want to talk about in this first game, that's a win for Greg Berhalter.
Yeah, I really appreciate your point about the mental and the emotional state of it. I think that's a really good point to bring up. The way I would think about it is the delta or the gap on what you get as a starter between Pulisic and a Gio Reyna, we'll say. And maybe if we agree that Pulisic is the better player as a starter, I think that gap is actually much bigger on who we'd rather bring in the 60th minute. That maybe Pulisic is a little bit better as a starter, but he's multiple units better in those last 30 minutes of a game with his pace, with his energy. And I can't imagine, I mean, what we saw in Project Restart after the COVID lockdown, when he was maybe the best attacker in the Premier League, is that over those last 30 minutes, there might be, I can't think of many players in the world that I would want to face less than him. So that's the way I think about it. You know, I always index high on super subs, but I would be really excited and I would actually feel better about it if we had him to bring on for the last 35 minutes.
I can understand that, but you need quality for the starter to have a super sub make a difference. That's one of the debates you and me always have. I'm sure we'll have it 40 times as well this week. I appreciate, by the way, Original Chaos here correcting me. Kiefer Moore scored last week. Ramsey just played a full 90 for Nice. So those two are getting back into form right now, which is huge for Wales, especially Ramsey. Ramsey, there's no question in terms of quality, in terms of importance for the team. It was just didn't work out at Juve, hadn't been playing at Nice as much as he wanted to this year. And if he's healthy, he's a game changer for this team. And that is one of the things that while the U.S. has talent in central midfield, they have struggled tracking runners out of central midfield. You think about the way Mexico won the Gold Cup 3 years ago, I think it was Weston McKennie losing his mark in central midfield. And I believe it was Guardado scoring the winner. And so that's been a problem for the U.S. at times. And that's a spot that Ramsey can really thrive in. So you had me go through a bunch of position stuff. Let me ask you this one. Sergiño Dest is the other questionable piece in this team right now in terms of health. How much does it affect the U.S. to have him or not have him on the field?
I think to your point about the emotional uplift that a Christian Pulisic brings, I think that Sergiño Dest does that in a different form. Whereas perhaps Pulisic raises the energy level, he raises the confidence. I actually think Sergiño Dest brings the chill. And we looked at what happened with Qatar, where the emotions were so high and it got the best of them. Sergiño Dest is when you have him on the field, he brings the probability of that way down because he is so calm. And you can always give him the ball. He'll always take the pressure off you. He'll always probably try and meg two people. And you look around, you're like, oh, this is just another game. So regardless of what he offers tactically, I think it's more important how calm and just how joyful he is and how that's infectious to the other players in the field.
Yeah, I think so. And I think the other piece that interests me is just this is a team that in Wales that a lot of their attack comes through the wing backs. And how do you turn them into defenders with Dest out there and not out there? Because the other side is, do you improve defensively without him out there? And I think Tim Weah is a big part of that conversation. If you want to talk about the U.S., Wales, England, Senegal, Netherlands, whatever, feel free to request right now to speak. And we'd love to hear what you think and bring you in. We've got Original Chaos right here. Let me let you in. Can you hear us? Oh, he is still connecting. Sorry about that. Original Chaos, can you hear us? And what is your actual name?
My name's David. How you doing?
Good.
I'm good. I'm a Welshman who lives in Vegas, so it's fun to listen to.
Love that Venn diagram.
I've just got a newborn, so there's lots of noise in the background. She does have a Welsh kid, even though she's born here, so she's going to be taught the real way, you know.
What's your level of confidence? What's the excitement? What's the story for tomorrow?
What's fun is being Welsh and being somewhere else in the world. We never expect anything out of anything. We're such a small country. It's been years since we've been in the World Cup. I was lucky enough to go to the last Euros, and I just wanted to see a goal. That's all we cared about, genuinely. That we love being Welsh. We love our players. They play far better for the Welsh team than they do their clubs a lot of the time. The Gareth Bale situation at LAFC was one of the things where you're like, he's in the sunshine, his muscles are nice and warm, he's playing now and again. I'm okay. He comes on, gets basically the winning goal in the MLS Cup, to take it to to get it to a draw, to take it to penalties. He's dangerous, and they're just such a tight squad. They're just a bunch of mates, ultimately. That's what we love about it. And you look at the press and how they always really lump pressure on England. That doesn't happen in Wales. We don't. Right. We don't do that to our teams. We just don't. And I think it's nice. We just go about our business quietly, and I think we'll surprise people again like we did in the Euros. It's going to be fun, I think.
One of the things for us, we've covered this a lot, is U.S. England, U.S. Wales. The Wales England dynamic, what is that for the fans, the team, the players? What's the feeling around that?
Well, you never want to lose to them. You probably will, because they're genuinely a strong team, but we always know they're more than likely going to bottle it later on in the tournament. Sadly, they're just a team of 11 players rather than a squad, and that's what you guys have got. You've got a good team, and we're the same. We've got good individuals, but we play better as a team. Yeah, England have got to sort a lot of things out before they can win a tournament again. And, look at how they're criticizing their manager. Not that I like Gareth Southgate, but there's so much pressure they put on themselves. And they already talk like they've won the group. They did that in the Euros. They beat us, but we won the group. And it's just so much pressure. Just go and enjoy it. Go and enjoy the football. It's one of those things you just got to enjoy. If we don't win a game, fine. It's a World Cup. You got there. It's a hell of an achievement. And it's very interesting to watch it over here. It's one of those things I have to try and find Welsh commentary somewhere online while I watch.
David can do the accent for you. You ask him, he can do it for you. But I want to know, I always love talking about people's group chats. All right. You have your group chat with your friends back in Wales. What are they saying about the U.S. men's national team? And I'll if the one sentence summary in the U.S. right now about Wales is defensive team who's going to sit back, and then it's all about having Gareth Bale and Aaron Ramsey, right? What is your group chat saying about this U.S. men's national team?
Well, it's just your individual players. It's the ones we see more than often. And it's just, I've lived here for 6 years now, and got to give it to Americans. You got a bucket load of confidence in everything you do. I love that. It's a very American trait to just be loud and confident in everything you do. I got a green card. I can say what I want. It's fine. It's just one of those things you don't want to underestimate anybody. There was a graphic this morning that somebody put out, I think Eurosport put out, of the populations of countries at the World Cup, and we've got 3.3 million people in our country. America, I've always said this, should absolutely be winning the World Cup with the amount of people that you have here. You should be able to produce 11 absolute at least 7 or 8 world-class players that should be dominating throughout Europe and the rest of the world. And that will be amazing when that happens. I think it will. I don't think it's now, but I think you're a strong team that you should never underestimate anybody who's made this tournament.
Yeah.
It's you got to look. It's going to be funny to watch. Some of those decisions today were a bit questionable. It wasn't a great game this morning. I don't think either of those teams are particularly strong. But it's you have different qualification groups than we do, and we play different teams. So it's always difficult to know and judge teams on their qualifying because we play different teams. We play a lot of strong European teams and then some really weak ones, and which we were one of them for donkey's years,
Right.
And we still have our moments, but it's just fun. We're just going to go and have fun. You'll hear that from any Welsh person. We just love finally people in America saying, "Oh, you're not part of England. That's good."
Yeah.
It's just a big geography lesson mostly.
Yeah.
I'm very excited for you to enjoy it. I'm very excited you just have fun in the group stage. And then you can be a USA fan when it's over, because as you said, you're here and this is what we do, and we welcome everyone in.
Well, okay.
Have a good one. Congrats, Mazel
Thanks,
tov
David.
on your daughter. Enjoy.
That was a high bar for our first caller.
It was.
Our first guest to come on.
Wants to talk, feel free to come in. We've got someone here, Tug Thornton, who wants to chat. So we're going to bring him in right now, and let's see if maybe we get the other side. I would expect there's one or two USA fans listening, but we're fine having experts from everywhere else. Tug, can you hear us?
Oh, yeah,
Tug,
yeah.
Can you hear us? How's it going? What's up?
Good. That World Cup game was something, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was an interesting one to start with, I would say. How you feeling for tomorrow?
Oh, man, I'm so excited. I mean, me and the boys are going to be stuck at school, but we are going to be trying to find a way to watch that game, man.
Okay. What's the plan?
Well, the plan is we're going to huddle up in one corner. One dude's going to pull up Fox Sports, and
nice.
We're going to hold up our computer screens and hope no one sees. But that'd be great. But
I miss those days. I would trade for that for anything right now.
All right. So are you nervous? Are you excited? What's your confidence for the US?
Well, the US, they can make it out of the group, but here's the thing, I've looked at other opinions on other national teams. You've heard the stuff that's going on with Mexico, for example. They think they're going to make it out of the group and whatnot, but they've done everything to convince them that they're not going to make it out of the group, right?
Right.
Yeah. It's a back and forth type of thing. We definitely can make it out of the group. Definitely. We have the players. Mm-hmm. We have everything we need. It's just we need to whatchamacallit. We just need to get the job done at Wales and hopefully keep Iran out and hope for a tie against England.
All right. Tug, I agree with you. I think we both agree with you that the quality is there. Enjoy streaming at school tomorrow. If you get in trouble, Bobby Warshaw signed off on it, so you could just blame it on him.
Perfect.
And put that pressure on
Perfect.
him. All right. Just tell them that he's the soccer genius, and he told you that you had to watch the game. Okay.
Oh yeah, no, that was gonna happen either way, man.
Awesome.
Love
All
that.
Right, Tug, have a good one. Thank you for joining us.
DG, I know you have this story too, but I skipped part of a final in college to watch the Phillies win the World Series.
I almost got suspended from school for wearing for painting my face USA colors for the US Czech Republic game in 2006.
Ooh.
My teacher
Was it worth it for that game?
Well, not for the result. And that was back when everyone was like, oh, I'm actually a fan of the other team, right? Everyone who didn't care was like, I don't like the US. Where now I think most people are USA fans. Let's see if we have another one right here. We've got Clipper Edward, who we're going to let in to see what he thinks about this one. And I'm wearing a New York Knicks shirt right now, so go Knicks as well. I am interested, by the way, and we'll talk about this in just a moment. Clipper, can you hear us?
Hey, what's up, guys? Thanks for bringing me on.
Yeah, what's up? What do you want to talk about?
Well, first, I just want to start off with Ecuador. I'm so proud of these guys, man, being one of the youngest teams in the World Cup. Really shining today. We struggled to score, but today we didn't show that. Maybe the second half we did a little bit, but I think we kind of took our foot off the gas just to prevent injuries and stuff like that. But I'm glad we got the 3 points. And as far as for USA, you can never go against American resiliency. We always have those miracle games, and I feel like tomorrow is going to be a miracle game. And, I appreciate everything that Bell did for the black and gold as a LAFC fan, but tomorrow I will be rooting against him because it's always red, white, and blue to the end.
So LAFC and Ecuador and USA, you've got a lot of rooting interests going on right now.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I got a headache on my hands, and today was definitely a sweat for sure.
Well, Edward, when you followed Ecuador, Edward, have you ever seen them? My understanding from following the media down in South America and Ecuador is that this was an entirely new formation for them and an unexpected approach. And David and I always talked, we spent all of these hours preparing for these teams, and you really don't know what's going to happen. I mean, what did you think about their approach to that game?
I really wasn't surprised because with Gustavo Alfaro, he really knows what he's doing with that team. He knows how to lead young guys. And I feel like he figured something out with the Qatar team, and he switched it up. And, I'm really appreciative that he came and is doing such a great job with this team because a lot of these guys, didn't even want to play for the team. And he started making guys believe. And, whatever he says goes. So I was interested in what he did today, but kind of not because I believe whatever he does.
I love to hear that. Edward, thank you so much for joining us. We hope you are as happy tomorrow as you were today, and you'll have to come back on when we get into the second round and the U.S. and Ecuador matchup in the round of 16. Cool?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I appreciate it, and go USA all the way.
Love to hear that. Bobby, the Alfaro stuff's really interesting. By the way, a story that we didn't have a chance to talk about, though, is he brought a second division player in Kevin Rodriguez. And this is a player that he earmarked 6 months ago when he started scoring in cup games, and they brought him a nutritionist and a trainer from the national team and sort of built him up to get here, which is really cool. Which takes me to my last topic, by the way, because I think everyone that we had on just now talked about the talent, the individual talent on the U.S., and that's the conversation. And I think for you and me, very specifically, I'm excited for tomorrow. For a lot of people who have worked really hard for a lot of time, see some of the fruits of their labor celebrated, of people who worked on building the youth game, coaching licenses, opportunity for players, all of that in the U.S. It started in the 80s and the 90s, but really truly in the mid 2000s and early 2000s. And any storyline that it's a reaction to Couva in 2018 World Cup qualifying is false. A lot of the building blocks were put into place, but you're going to see a lot of players who are going to play tomorrow for the U.S. that came through a system that didn't exist for you and me. And that's a large part of why they've been able to get to where they've gotten to. And I think that's where you've got 3.2 million people in Wales saying, well, I don't know about the U.S., but I know Brendan Aronson's good. And I know Tyler Adams is good. And I know Gio Reyna is good and Christian Pulisic. And a lot of work went into building the foundation for those players to be able to get to the place they got to. And that's not taking away from the work they put in as people and the risks they take and the sacrifices they give up. But it's even bigger than that. And I think that's going to be really cool to see rewarded and celebrated on the men's side at that level. Hopefully tomorrow in a good way at 4 p.m. Eastern time. Either way, we'll be back here with you. So we're going to have the whole crew come on with us and do a live post-game show after the watch-along that's on MLSsoccer.com. We're going to have Andrew Wiebe, I believe Charlie Davies, Matt Doyle. Everyone's going to come on, talk about the U.S.-Wales game, talk about the England game, what we saw from yesterday, and then help us preview going forward into Canada. But that's going to be your emotional reaction space for whatever goes on. If it's good, we're going to be happy with you. And if it's sad, I believe misery loves company. And there's nothing I need more after a terrible Knicks loss than to get onto Sports Talk Radio and listen to other people be miserable. So you can come join us for that one. And I'm really looking forward to it. Our first show in the books. Bobby, between the performance from Ecuador to Qatar, where do you think we stood in between as our first club and country?
I would say that we were a Seba Mendes of the day.
Okay.
You know,
cool.
we maybe not Enner Valencia, but we were Seba Mendes for sure.
Still hit a through ball. As long as I hit one through ball, I'm happy.
Love that.
Thank you to Rich Kaufman for helping us out on this one. Thank you to Rich Hernandez, as always, for being able to take time away from the kids and the family to be able to be on with us and produce and do everything we need. Enner Valencia. He's not buying another thing for life in Ecuador. Who will it be tomorrow? Will it be a special goal scorer on Senegal? Will it be Cody Gakpo of Netherlands? Will it be Harry Kane once again? Will it be someone new for England, someone special for Iran, or could it be an American, or maybe Gareth Bale for the second time in the last month or so with the big moment? So we are excited to watch all the games. We will be on Twitter all day, so tweet at us any topics you want us to talk about, any winners that you think are already need to go into our big categories, as well as what you want us to talk about on the show that will come out live on Twitter Spaces at 5 p.m. Eastern time, and then on a podcast on demand. So thank you to all of you out there for listening. And most of all, congratulations to all of us. Happy World Cup Day. We do it again tomorrow. We will see you then.